to discuss Manchester City's fifth straight defeat as they lose to Tottenham. And and yeah, Manchester City they are really struggling this season, or not this season, but recently. Five straight defeats in all competitions, three losses in a row now in the Premier League, and with that loss, they are 8 points adrift of Liverpool. With Liverpool coming up this weekend, that game will be at Liverpool at Anfield coming up this weekend. So yeah, that's a little bit of a rough place to be in if you're a Liverpool, if you're a Manchester City supporter. I guess. I mean, I think City has caught up to Liverpool, being up by 8 points before. So there's that aspect, but five straight losses in all competitions. Four straight losses have never happened. So five does raise alarm bells. And, I have a little bit issue jumping on this train that everybody has been jumping on. Oh, City, they've just lost it. All good things come to end. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's just calm down for a second. Let's just calm down a second, because number one, people have forgotten already how Manchester City looked through their first stretch of games this season. Manchester City were playing some of the best football that they have ever played to start off this season for a good stretch. Now, recently, a little bit after that Rodri injury. By the way, they've essentially not played Rodri the entire year. He came, his second game that he started the season, he suffered that ACL injury. Rodri has not really been involved with Manchester City all season. Let's get that in the way. So people talking about, this coming with Rodri injury. Well, Rodri didn't play earlier this season and City were absolutely dominant. So is it Rodri? I think Rodri's injury does have an impact to it, because in the midfield, they don't have that beef in there. They don't have that defensive stability in the midfield. I'm not denying that point by any point and by any means. I'm definitely not denying that. But what is something plaguing this team is the fact that defensively they're just too leaky. They're too leaky. That the last 5 games that they've lost, they have conceded 14 goals. 14 goals. 2 to Tottenham, 2 to Bournemouth, 4 to Sporting, 2 to Brighton, 4 to Tottenham. They're leaking too many goals. And the mistakes that they're making defensively as well, they just are a little too easy to play against. And what City have been able to do in games past is, they've suffocated teams so much that teams struggle to even get on the ball enough to create opportunities against them. And City, they're still able to control the ball in moments, right? But it seems like they're susceptible to that one moment going against them. And then when that one moment goes against them, they just put their head down. City, through the first 12 minutes in this game, they were superior. They were dominating Tottenham. One moment that leads to a James Maddison goal in the 13th minute, and then suddenly City are playing with some nervous energy and look like a whole different ball club. And Tottenham slowly started gaining momentum. And the few moments that they were picking apart passes and going forward, they looked deadly. They look like they despite having 40% of the possession, only having 9 shots, all of their opportunities were clear cutout opportunities. It was so easy for them to play through Manchester City. and it's so ironic as well, because Tottenham has been the team this season that, despite being able to dominate in games, they have not been clinical enough to take advantage of the opportunities, especially earlier on with the few opportunities that came. This was a reverse of what we've seen from Tottenham earlier this season. Despite the other team having more possession, having more of the ball, they were the ones that were more deadly, more devastating, more clinical. Um, and yeah, and they were able to get the job done. I mean, 4-0. I thought it was probably not a 4-0 game. I thought Tottenham were the better team and they deserved the comfortable victory. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it was a 4-0 game. To beat, to beat any team 4-0, it implies a complete and utter domination. And I thought City's had their spell here and there, and a lot of people are freaking out, saying they were absolutely dominated. Look, people are freaking out to that extent because we've never seen City look this vulnerable. A lot of people are bringing this up, but I have to say, when have you seen Kyle Walker just get done like that? When Kyle Walker gets done, it's mostly, because of his positioning in terms of defending away from the ball. It's mostly done from his positioning away from the ball. But what you don't see Kyle Walker is get outpaced. I mean, he just simply got outpaced by Timo Werner. It wasn't, and Timo Werner, he didn't hit him with a cross or a step over or anything like that, something to get a Kyle Walker, off his feet or going into a different direction or anything. He just went past him. And Kyle Walker, he is, 32 years old. He is 34 years old, and oh wow, he's 34 years old. I didn't even know that. He is 34 years old, and this is the 93rd minute of a ball claim, but for him to just get run past like that, I mean, when have you seen that? And yeah, the City team in certain areas are lacking that athleticism. They're lacking that belief, and yeah, Pep Guardiola, he has a lot of work to do with this group. Defensively, they're not at it. In terms of being able to create, they look a little stagnant. Kevin De Bruyne, he came off the bench this game, and he had that little bust up as well. Yeah, it's an issue. But for people to sit here and act like, like City are out of it and blah, 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 blah. Come on. City, they can get something positive going against a Feyenoord team that's pretty poor. Start getting the momentum going back into the right direction as they take on Feyenoord in the Champions League tomorrow. Technically today, because we're past midnight. And then they can pull off if they can pull off a victory over Liverpool. I mean, they were 5 points now. Suddenly, it's all doom and gloom turns to bright sunshine. And even if City, let's say worst case scenario, City were to lose against Liverpool 11 points, if anybody could come back from 11 points, it is Manchester City. But they need to beef up that midfield. I don't know if you have the answers in the club right now. Do they have to wait a month and do something in January? They need to beef up that midfield. Defensively, they need to find some sort of system with this current group of defenders to get the best out of them. We saw this game, we saw Stones and Akanji. It was Guardiola as left back and Kyle Walker as right back. We've seen Guardiola do some mixing and matching. Against Brighton, he played Guardiola and Simpson Pusey, and then had Enrico Lewis and Kyle Walker. Defensively, they need to figure it out. Whatever the back four is, maybe switching potentially to a back three. We've seen him do that, and when they have the ball, deploy John Stones as a holding midfielder, essentially. Maybe do something like that to get a little bit more defensive stability in there. Maybe Stones playing that holding midfielder role as well. It gives you a little bit more defensive stability in the midfield with Rodri being out. Something has to change, because the way that they're going right now. Tottenham do, historically though, over recent history, they have had been able to get the better out of Manchester City over recently, or in recent times. They've been able to get the best, in terms of the best of Manchester City. One of the few teams that City really have struggled in recent history has been against Tottenham. And maybe it's another case of that, yes, but 5 straight defeats, it is concerning. 5 straight defeats, because we've never seen that under Manchester City, under Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. But again, if anybody is able to get out of the hole that City are in, is Manchester City. And despite all of this, because of how great City were earlier in the season, how they started off earlier in the season, 5 straight defeats, or with the 5 straight defeats, they're still only sitting, if you look at the league table, 8 points away from Liverpool. That's still manageable. But yeah. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to